Welcome to The Fight on Matrix Midwest with Randy Karraker and company.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to The Fight here on Matrix Midwest. It's Blues Day here at Matrix Midwest, and first alert for the Blues return to action against Winnipeg tomorrow, and you can see the game right here on free TV on Matrix Midwest. That's Andrew Rogers wearing his Blues gear. I'm Randy Karraker wearing my Blues gear, and we've got quite a show for you. The championship of the Four Nations face-off was spectacular. We've got a report on the Cardinals from Jupiter in just a few moments. We'll preview the St. Louis City SC opener with radio analyst Jen Cease, and we have the Friday fight. But let's start with the Four Nations tournament finale in Boston last night. An unforgettable Four Nations face-off with the championship game going to overtime in Boston, and Connor McDavid of the Oilers beating the USA in OT 3-2. It was 1-1 after a period. Nathan MacKinnon for Canada, Brady Tkachuk for the USA, 2-2 after two. Jake Sanderson of the USA, Sam Bennett of Canada trading goals, and then after the second, Matthew Tkachuk, clearly the USA's most important player. And Andrew, this was huge. He didn't play because of a reported groin injury. Brady Tkachuk saying, by the way, it doesn't look good, but got to give credit to Canada. They took advantage of the misfortune of the United States. Didn't have Charlie McAvoy, who was great against McDavid earlier in the tournament, and didn't have Matthew Tkachuk for the third. I think if those two guys are around, I think the USA might win even going away. But Canada wins it. Jordan Binnington was sensational. Colton Parayko was great, and there you have Connor McDavid as the MVP of the tournament.
Gosh, I can't believe he got so wide open there in overtime. That's just what I thought in the moment.
Charlie McAvoy.
And you didn't have that. And you had two forwards kind of chasing down the puck, and all of a sudden McDavid sneaks around, sitting wide open in the slot, and he makes that shot 11 times out of 10. Hellebuck had no chance. But it is a bummer that the U.S. lost this game. But at the same time, this tournament was awesome. Right? I don't want to take that away at all. Even though Canada got the dub, it's okay, because as hockey needed it to be, it was the most popular 2 weeks of the hockey season. The NHL was going on all year. Nobody cared until the Four Nations tournament decided to give a reason to care. And, you know, all I could think about, Randy, was this. It was like the Spark Notes version for a non-hockey fan. This tournament. It's like me in high school when I didn't read the book and I go into class the next day and act like I read it. I just got the Cliff Notes, right? True. And so that's what a fan was able to get from a tournament like this. Not only were you able to support your country, you felt a lot of pride, but you also now can take back, hey, I know a lot of top players in the NHL.
And a couple of told you so's, because one of those top players, the best player, Connor McDavid, he gets a lot of grief in Canada because he's been in the league for 10 years and his team hasn't won a Stanley Cup. Goes to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and it's pretty hard to get to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, Connor McDavid comes up big in this tournament, including the game winner in overtime last night, and then a guy that takes a lot of grief in Canada. Maybe it's because of his actions and activities over the years, but he does have a Stanley Cup ring, and he played great in Boston again last night. Blues goalie Jordan Binnington. Now his legacy is cemented. A champion in the NHL, winning the Stanley Cup, a champion in the Four Nations tournament. Now you can argue that the way he performed and the way that his team won this, he's the best goalie in the world.
Binnington always does enough to quiet the haters. He may have looked like Swiss cheese throughout the tournament, and that's okay when you can go win it all at the end of the day. He showed you exactly who he was. The 2019 version of him in Boston showed up again last night. That's Binner in a nutshell.
Yeah. And now you might think you know hockey, but I'm going to argue that you don't know as much hockey as Bill Guerin, as John Cooper, as the people that put these teams together for the USA and for Canada, and the people that coach them. Jay Bouwmeester used to take a lot of grief here. But then I would watch the Olympics and I'd watch the World Cup, and Jay Bouwmeester would be on the ice with 2 minutes left when Canada had a 1-goal lead. And what do I see in this tournament? Same thing with Colton Parayko. People here in St. Louis, for whatever reason, want to trade Colton Parayko. But there he is in the biggest moments, in the biggest games, with the biggest players and best players in the world, and Colton Parayko is on the ice to protect the lead or to help Canada win a game. So who am I going to trust? These people that hop on Twitter and say, oh, we should trade Colton Parayko. Or am I going to trust John Cooper, who has a couple of Stanley Cup championships under his belt as a head coach? I think I'm going to trust Cooper and Canada and the people that have the Four Nations Cup now.
I think that's a smart bet. I really think that's a smart bet. And it is telling, though, for Blues fans to, maybe think back and say, okay, I'm going to reflect on this. Do I really want the Blues to move on from a guy like Karraker? Maybe it's for, better value in the future or the way they're trying to build, or maybe it's just he's a great defenseman. He showed that all season long, and the NHL recognizes that. So the fact that you had two Blues players in the biggest moment on the biggest stage is telling for the future of this organization. It's not just a situation of, hey, the Blues haven't been very good. And when they come back now, are they going to go back on the rise? Are they going to carry and push through? Maybe, maybe not, but at least you can hang your head on the Blues had two of the top players on Canada's team this season, and it was proven in the last 2 minutes of that game.
Now, one thing we say in sports is the moment was too big for him, and we know about Jordan Binnington here, right? We've talked about Binnington already. We know what he did in Boston in 2019. But I think on an international basis, they might have thought that going into a championship game like last night that Binnington just wasn't up to it. Maybe they thought he was nervous or something like that. I don't know. But
do I look nervous?
No. Well,
What's your answer?
No, you do not.
Nice little feed in there.
You did not look nervous, no. Jordan Binnington, congratulations to you. They got the medal for it. I don't know if they get a ring, but it was a pretty cool trophy. It was better than the World Cup trophy. And I think, and you mentioned this to me earlier before we came on the air, and we've talked about it a lot, those fights that we saw earlier and this game, I think they changed the way hockey is perceived in the USA. And I was thinking about this too. Yesterday, and we'll talk about this later in the show, Major League Baseball and ESPN parted ways. What does that open the door for now on Sunday nights in the spring and early summer? The Stanley Cup playoffs that used to have be on, they were on Sportsnet or something like that. Now you can have Stanley Cup playoffs, primetime ESPN Sunday night, because baseball's not going to be there after 2025.
And that's how you build fans. This tournament was, even though the U.S. did not win, and you may have to swallow a little bit of your pride here in America, but at least you can say this U.S. team has so much to build on moving forward. When was the last time that USA Hockey really carried as much momentum as we saw over the last 2 weeks? It hasn't been since probably 1980 when you saw the Herb Brooks Open on this game, this championship game. Yeah. And so knowing that you have a young core, you can build off of this, it sets up USA Hockey for the future more than it actually, puts you in a situation of saying it's a one and done year. So hockey will grow, and you can, when the Olympics come, when are the Olympics? 2026?
Next year.
Yeah, okay, so next year. When the Olympics are here, you can bet that people are going to be locked and loaded for USA Hockey.
And of course, you can watch the Blues tomorrow night. Maybe it'll be Hellebuck and Binnington with the Blues and the Jets here on Matrix Midwest. Later in the show, you can help us build a parlay. Find a single bet you like on DraftKings and send it to us. Andrew will make a bet, I'll make a bet, you can make a bet, and we'll put them all together and build a parlay. Text in 314-624-0414, and if you have any questions, we'll answer them later too. Any sports questions you have, text in or email us at thefight@matrixmidwest.com. The Cardinals open up their spring training season tomorrow down in Jupiter, Florida, and our Tamar Scher. You can see her on First Alert 4, and she's a great contributor here at Matrix Midwest, and she joins us live from Jupiter right now. Tamar, first of all, congratulations on the weather. It's still horrible here. How's the week gone, and what was the most eye-opening interview that you've done?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to complain because I know it's a lot colder where you are. You can't see, though. I'm wearing a little bit of a sweater. It's been a little cooler in the mornings.
Poor thing.
And then, of course, Randy, you understand, the sunshine comes out right when you're on the backfields and you're getting all that video. But when I've been interviewing so many of the guys, and I just want to tell you, this is such an energetic clubhouse right now. Everyone's positive. Everyone feels good. I keep asking the guys, like, how's your body feeling? What'd you do in the off season to kind of prepare for 2025? And everyone still has the mindset that they want to win. So you talk about eye-opening interview. I was able to talk to Wilson Contreras yesterday one-on-one. He's making that shift from behind the plate to first base. Now, that's a really hard transition, but it's also a transition in which he can focus on a different part of his game. No longer does he have to focus on the entirety of the game, but he can focus on his power. He can focus on what he does from a hitting standpoint. And he can also just take a step back and give opportunity to guys like Pedro Pajes, Ivan Herrera. I thought his approach was really cool. And I thought it was interesting. He did tell me he wants to make sure the Cardinals own the division. So we'll see how that goes. Spring training games start tomorrow, but I thought it was really neat to hear from a World Series catcher, Wilson Contreras, who was willing to make that shift to first base.
Tamar, some of the best moments that at least I can remember when being around players is when the camera isn't rolling. Has anything stuck out to you in that regard?
Certainly. I mean, the relationships these guys are building with the veterans who've returned. So you talk about a Thomas Sajaci, a young player. He's been working with Nolan Arenado at third, and he also has been talking to Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith. Ozzie always comes to spring training. You see him interacting with fans. First of all, not only is he the nicest guy ever, but Ozzie wants to help these guys in any way he can. So you talk about him talking to Nolan Arenado. That's 23 Gold Gloves there. And then he's also talking to Thomas Sajaci to help him shore up his game and really make the MLB roster. So I think that those are the coolest moments. The behind the scenes of the community these guys are building together is what I love to see. And you're seeing it right there. Ozzie Smith, Thomas Sajaci, they're really working on the fundamentals of the game because, as Ali put it, he wants these guys to do everything they can now, make mistakes now, and be aggressive, because that's what's going to kind of make sure in the long run, when you're in the season, that you can see what your runway is.
Tamar, in a clubhouse, it's natural for the young players to be deferential to the veterans. And last year, you had Goldie, you had Lynn, you had Kyle Gibson, who are all great guys and have all had really high levels of success at the major league level. But what's it like now? What's the vibe with, as you mentioned, the younger group kind of taking over that clubhouse?
So I was here at spring training last year, and I'm going to tell you, the clubhouse vibe doesn't feel entirely different. I recognize all the faces. You still got veterans in Wilson Contreras, Sonny Gray, Nolan Arenado. Of course, he's reported and he's been so positive. But what I do appreciate about the young guys who have this runway, have this opportunity, they're really taking advantage. They have a new hitting coach, Brant Brown, and a lot of them have spoken in depth about what Coach Brown has done to help them adjust their game, adjust their swing. You talk about Nolan Arenado, talking to him there. There's also a guy like Nolan Borman who could be poised to have a breakout season. He worked with Brant Brown, who they call Brownie, every single day. They live 10 minutes apart in Arizona during the off season. So I think these guys are just communicating together. They want to win. They want to build up their core. They understand that the opportunity is in front of them, so they're really optimistic about it.
Tamar, whose personality or demeanor do you think fans will lock onto most this season?
Okay, well, I'm giving you the obvious answer. It has to be Mason Wynn. He is so poised to become a face of the franchise. He's a guy who, first of all, not only is he a fun guy, you can see him interacting with the majority of the clubhouse. Everyone likes Mason Wynn. He has that drawing personality, but also he's not willing to, go up to Ozzie, have a conversation with him, have a conversation with Nolan about just the way in which he can approach his game. He had a great season last year, but from a personality standpoint, him, Jordan, Victor, there are these guys who just understand what it's like to have fun. And I think if you see a little more of that this season, where guys are just having fun, guys are just really able to settle into their game and say, okay, I'm here. Let me just see what I can produce, see what I can do. I think it's going to be fun. But Mason Wynn is just the easy pick for me.
Cardinals open their spring training schedule tomorrow against the Marlins. And Tamar, you have been magnificent for us this week. It's so great to have you as a teammate, and the features that you've given us on people like Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman and more, and joining us this morning. We really appreciate it, and just want to congratulate you on a spectacular week in Jupiter.
Thank you so much. So much more content ahead, but love you guys and being teammates with you. So thanks for having me on this morning.
All right, you'll be on
fans
sooner rather than later. See you tomorrow. Tamar's here down in Jupiter, Florida. Hey, today is an exciting day here at Matrix Midwest. It is Blues Day tomorrow night. As the Blues return from the Four Nations face-off, they play Winnipeg. Could be Jordan Binnington against Connor Hellebuck, just like last night. And tomorrow night, the game will be at 7 o'clock here on Matrix Midwest. Then March 8th against the Kings and March 25th against Montreal. We're excited to bring it to you. John Kelly and Jamie Rivers will have the call. Coming up, it looks like we're going to miss out on WNBA expansion here in St. Louis and a cool trade in baseball, but it's not what you think. It's next on The Fight. The Sports Business Journal reporting that St. Louis, one of 13 cities to apply for membership in the WNBA, will not get a team. Cleveland apparently is going to get the expansion franchise. Andrew, I don't know that the WNBA would succeed at a high level in St. Louis. There's a lot of talent from here. Nafisha Collier, obviously, from Incarnate Word. Maya Moore was born in Jeff City and has spent a lot of time in St. Louis. And Jason Tatum was one of the team investors. But I just wonder if, with the competition at that time of year from soccer now and baseball, I wonder if the WNBA would be a big-time hit here in St. Louis.
I'm totally with you in terms of it not being a hit. And that's not a knock on women's basketball. It's just that it's a hard sport to gather fan support for. Unless you have Caitlin Clark on your team, you're not selling out the building. You're not putting 17,000 in the seats. Who's the second most popular player in women's basketball? Would you say it's Angel Reese, right? Well, the Chicago Sky were below the average attendance number for the WNBA last year. So it just shows that unless you have a superstar like Clark, it's probably not going to work.
And you look at St. Louis University, they have a really good program at St. Louis U, and they're having trouble getting people to consistently attend the women's games. And I'm with Andrew. I think it's going to take a group of people that are complemented by a star if it was going to work here in St. Louis. And I think it also helps to have an NBA team to package with it, which is what Cleveland has, and most of the WNBA teams have, is that complementary NBA team to help them sell tickets.
Currently, St. Louis isn't a basketball market. It's a college basketball market, but it isn't professionally. Lots to compete with here.
We saw the new ABS system and the first successful challenge yesterday in the first spring training game of Major League Baseball. Cubs pitcher Cody Petit became the first player to challenge a ball strike call in a Major League game when he asked for a review of a fastball to the Dodgers' Max Muncy in the bottom of the first inning. Poteet was acquired from the Yankees for Cody Bellinger during the winter. He thought the low fastball caught the corner of the plate, but umpire Tony Randazzo disagreed. Well, with MLB rules as they are this spring, Poteet only had to tap his head, indicating he wanted a review. The pitch was reviewed, shown on the scoreboard. It was reversed, and instead of a 1-1 count, it was an 0-2 count. Get this into Major League Baseball regular season games ASAP. Hey, we've got the technology. Let's get it right.
How funny that it happened in the first inning of the game, too, Randy. It didn't even take more than 3 outs in order to get the first ABS. Hey, please check that again and, make sure that the call's right. And that's all you want, right? At the end of the day, you want to just make sure that you are getting everything accurately. And we've seen that at first base when they made the transition of being able to review. Might as well put it behind the plate too and keep the umps honest.
When replay started, Mike Matheny was the Cardinal manager, and he was concerned about replay causing there to be fewer manager-umpire arguments. And so those are some of the great things in history, our umpire arguments with managers. I don't think we will see it anymore. I think this, once ABS is installed, you aren't going to argue ball strike calls anymore, even though you can't anyway. But it gets you thrown out. Why bother now? Just challenge.
You're going to know the answer. I don't think we'll see Philip Wellman all too much out on the field.
That was great. Philip Wellman was the greatest meltdown of all time. He wound up being a Cardinal minor league manager. Lou Piniella was pretty good. Earl Weaver was awesome. Yeah, we aren't going to see this kind of stuff anymore.
Aaron Boone's loud.
Yeah. My guys are savages. Juan Soto bought Brett Beatty a new car for giving up his number 22 to Soto, a worthwhile deal. If it were you, would you take a car to get your number, or would you want more or take less? So back in 1988, the Cardinals traded John Tudor to the Los Angeles Dodgers for Pedro Guerrero, and Guerrero wore number 28 in LA. The Cardinals, because Dan Quisenberry was wearing number 28, gave Guerrero number 43. Pete said, this number's too heavy. And he went to Quisenberry and said, hey, what would it take to get number 28? It took a case of Bud Light. Pedro Guerrero only had to give Quisenberry a case of Bud Light to get number 28 from him.
I think I'd want a little bit more than that, and especially because in baseball, you're superstitious. Baseball players are weird, and they want that number to kind of just carry through life. High school, college, pros, once you get to a point where you can choose your number. But at the same time, Juan Soto's getting paid the biggest amount of money. If you're thinking superstition at all, Brett Beatty, you are not at the peak of where Juan Soto is. You give up that number, and I'll take a car in return. Sure, give me whatever you want. I'll take a signed jersey.
Shohei Ohtani gave Joe Kelly's wife a Porsche for Kelly giving up number 17 to Ohtani. And one of the all-time greats, Plaxico Burress, gave Jeff Fiegels, the Giants punter, an outdoor kitchen. in exchange for the number 17.
And that's different, and I like different.
Yeah.
I'd like an outdoor kitchen. Well, not right now when it's freezing cold outside, but in the summer I would.
There's so many great stories about number trades. We can get into this for a whole segment someday. City traded Indy Vasilev, a really high-level fan favorite here in St. Louis, to Philadelphia for allocation money. And Indy, very popular. It seems like Tim Parker got traded last year. It seems like there's a real level of difficulty that City is having getting a consistent face of the franchise going here. Now, it's only been 2 years, but Vasilev appeared to be the next guy.
Yeah, and you need a star on your team, and that can be looked at in two different ways. The first could be your literal statistical superstar that you have taken every PK, every free kick, or it could be that fan superstar, and that's what Vasilev was for this group. Now, it wasn't a happy ending, if you will. He was looking for a little bit more. The team wanted something else from him, so that's why they originally parted ways. But they need a star in St. Louis regardless, no matter if you're going one route, Route A or Route B that I just gave.
And it's one thing to have the Rex Hudler type star, right? The Bo Hart type star that is just somebody that everybody likes because he's little and he's the underdog. But to Andrew's point, and it's hard to do as an expansion team, but City is going to have to come up with a superstar that is the face of the franchise. Berkey was that in the first year of the team's existence. Hopefully Berkey can still be that, but he's a free agent after this season. And at some point, City is going to have a guy that they put up on billboards and everybody knows that face. That's what a face of the franchise is.
It's easy to say Leuven right now. It's easy to say Klaus, but Klaus took a step back last year. We'll see if he can respond. I think Hartle could be a name, too, to watch out for.
Klaus needs to get healthy. Major League Baseball and ESPN have mutually agreed to end their national television deal after this upcoming season. According to a memo, Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred sent to owners yesterday, does MLB need ESPN more, or does ESPN need MLB more? I always thought, Andrew, that one of the problems that the NHL had was people didn't care when they were on NBC Sports Network. People, you go to ESPN and you can find things, and I know ESPN's number of subscribers has gone basically in half, but still, I go to ESPN first. I don't look for the sport as much as I look at the channel first.
This is bad for baseball. Humans are creatures of habit, and I think that's where you were getting at there, where if you want information about something and you want information about sports, you go to ESPN for that, whether it's on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday night. And if you're scrolling through the log and you see Sunday Night Baseball, you may see Dodgers and Diamondbacks. Think back in your mind, these are two really good teams in Major League Baseball. I think I'm going to sit down and watch it. You want to get fans. You're trying to grow the game right now, and this is not the way to do it, by retracting everybody and trying to get them to switch things up.
And it's really interesting because Manfred's memo seemed to indicate that he thinks the most valuable piece of property they have is the home run derby. That's what ESPN has. It's highly rated. It's the most highly rated aspect of the baseball season. And of course, they have playoffs too. I'll be really surprised if as many people watch baseball elsewhere as they do on ESPN.
You know, to make the home run derby better, give him a metal bat. Let's see him hit
there
it
you go.
500, 600 feet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it lands. Coming up, it's Friday, and it's time to bring you The Fight. Plus, we're going to talk to Jen Cease about City's opener on Sunday night, next here on The Fight.
It's now time for The Fight here on The Fight with Karraker and Company. 4 questions, 1 champion, and the current champ is in the green room, sitting by Randy. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good there, big boy. How you doing?
I'm good. I feel like I just saw you. Now I get to see you again.
Yeah, here it is. I got this.
Oh, there's the belt. Yeah, see, he's showing off. Let's welcome in our challenger so he can see your previous winning. There it is. This is Jack. Jack, meet Randy. Randy, meet Jack.
Jack, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good.
Good. So,
Jack, do you have what it takes to defeat Randy today? Chirp at him a little bit.
I guess we'll see. I have the advantage of knowing him for a long time, so.
So it's going to be a battle. Randy, that means I need you to take your earpiece out.
I'm ready.
Now that he's done that, we can get started. Jack, 4 questions. Here we go. Question number 1. Who was the last St. Louis Cardinal player to hit for the cycle? Was it Mark Grzelcyk, Nolan Arenado, or David Freese?
Whew. Feel like I remember watching Freeze do it one time. You know what? Let's go with Freeze.
Question number 2. How many states have more than one Major League Baseball team? Is it 6, 8, or 10?
Huh.
Feel free to go
8.
through it. Okay, 8. We're just going to go at it, right? Who cares? We'll take a shot in the dark. Question number 3. Which St. Louis Blues goaltender holds the record for most career shutouts? Is it Jake Allen, Yaroslav Halak, or Brian Elliott?
You know, I remember when this happened. I want to say it's Allen. I'll go Allen.
And question number 4. The last time Mizzou was in the NCAA tournament was in Dennis Gates' first season 2 years ago. What team did they beat before losing to Princeton in the following round? Was it USC, Utah State, or Boise State?
So it would have been Utah State. That was Ryan Odom. That was the coach there at Utah State, who's now at VCU.
And now let's welcome back in Randy. So, Tyler, if you could reach out to Randy, have him put his earpiece back in. Jack, how you feeling?
To steal a quote from somebody, not great.
Long time quote. Randy, knowing that, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good there, Andrew. I'm feeling good.
All right, here we go. Let's go through your questions. Remember, Randy, you have one lifeline if you need it.
Thank you.
Question number 1. Who was the last St. Louis Cardinals player to hit for the cycle?
I believe it was Nolan Arenado a couple of years ago. Maybe his first year here. I think he might have done it in Philadelphia.
Question number 2. How many states have more than one Major League Baseball team?
Well, you've got Illinois, you've got New York, you've got California, you've got Missouri. Let's just run around Major League Baseball. You've got Florida, that's 5. You've got Texas, that's 6. You've got Ohio, that's 7. Let's see, Cards, Cubs, Red Bruce Pirates, Pennsylvania. That's 8 right there.
Yeah, that was the 8th one that you said.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Dodgers, Padres, Giants. That's all California. Colorado, Arizona don't. Massachusetts doesn't. Toronto. So let's move. I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with 8.
Question number 3. Which St. Louis Blues goaltender holds the record for most career shutouts?
You know what, Andrew? We had to put our dog Moose down. Moose had cancer. So poor Moose. He was a great dog. And he's named after Brian Elliott, Moose. So I'm going to go with Brian Elliott. This question probably asked in honor of the late, great Moose. Brian Elliott.
And question number 4. The last time Mizzou was in the NCAA tournament was Dennis Gates' first season 2 years ago. What team did they beat before losing to Princeton in the following round?
I know they lost to Princeton. Andrew, I'm going to do the lifeline here.
Is it USC, Utah State, or Boise State?
It's not USC, so it's a coin flip between Utah State and Boise State. I'm going to go with Utah State.
All right, let's run back through the answers and see who our winner is. Question number 1 was, who was the last St. Louis Cardinals player to hit for the cycle? Jack, you said David Freese. Randy, you said Nolan Arenado. The answer is Nolan Arenado. He did it back in 2022. Randy got it right against Philly. I think that game was the first game of July.
A Friday night in Philly, yep.
Question number 2, how many states have more than one Major League Baseball team? Randy, you ran through the list and you got to 8. Jack, I think you just took a shot in the dark and you also said 8, but you're both right. So congratulations there. Doesn't matter the system on how you get to an answer. You just get it right at the end of the day. Question number 3, which St. Louis Blues goaltender holds the record for most career shutouts? Jack, you said Jake Allen. Randy, you said Moose. Brian Elliott, after your pup, your late pup, that is. Brian Elliott is the answer there as well. So Randy has the lead going into question number 4. And this one, I'll skip the intro and just read the question. Who did they beat before losing to Princeton in the following round? You both said Utah State. You both are correct. Randy with a clean sweep. All 4 correct. Jack, I'm sorry he got the better of you this time.
I lost to Randy at his best. Nothing to be upset about.
Amen, brother. Thanks for playing.
Hey, Jack, thank you so much for playing. We appreciate it.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you.
That is Jack, and that's the fight. And Randy is still king of the hill.
And don't forget, we need your help. If you think you can beat me, email us right now. Send us your name and tell us you want to fight. That email is thefight@matrixmidwest.com. We record it on Thursday, air it on Friday. And this is what you win if you are the winner of the fight. So I got it right now. I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah, just email us. And by the way, if you text us if you've got a bet too. We've got Build a Parlay coming up. Text us. You've got our text number already. Okay, St. Louis City SC opens up their season against Colorado tomorrow night at what is now Energizer Park, formerly City Park. And Jen Cease is the radio analyst for St. Louis City SC on Y98, another Lindenwood grad, and joins us now here on the fight. Jen, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well enough to know that I will never text you for a fight. I know better. I used to produce you, and you always know the stats. You'll never get that from me.
What was the number again? You said 94% over the last 3 years?
Something like 9.48%.
Pretty good.
So, Jen, as we get set for the opening of the MLS season, this is a different-looking roster with new coach in Olaf Melberg. How do you think they'll change, if they will, stylistically, though?
You know, you're right. It's almost the same feelings I had going into the very first season, where I was actually the very first game where they played at Austin FC. I was sitting at the Village Pub off of in Des Peres watching them and saying, I just hope we're good. And turned out we won that game and had a crazy first season. According to Lutz Pfannenstiel, sporting director, the non-negotiables are the way City likes to play in terms of high press, intensity, and hard work. So we don't see that changing in terms of City's identity. Now, what's up for grabs, though, is how you go about doing that. Your formational changes, who you pair together, how you like to do that press. So I don't see City's style changing in their identity, but how Coach Olaf Melberg chooses to do that might be a little different than what Coach Bradley Carnell did.
Jen, Village Pub, best burger in town?
It was great.
They have great burgers there.
Hey, Jen, you mentioned year 1, and that was magical. Year 2, obvious regression. My question, though, is how much does year 3 set the tone for the future of the soccer club?
That's a great question. You know, that first year, right, is a magical year. It was arguably an unrealistically magical year. So I would call year 2 not a regression from the mean, a regression from almost unrealistic expectations that City, in terms of outcome, exceeded. Now, when you look on paper, City actually had a better roster year 2 than year 1, and they should have a better roster year 3 than year 2. The key is, can we keep players healthy and uninjured? Do we have enough depth in the roster at each position? Coach Olaf Melberg would like at least 2 at each position. And then how do we take this new kind of subset of players that have come in, even though some of them have played together before, it's relatively new, and make sure they mix together not only on the field, but off the pitch as well, and align with the identity that both Lutz and Olaf Melberg want to see in terms of defense, offense, and the transition attack from the middle.
Jen, last year in the middle of the season and then during the offseason, talent level has changed a lot. How dramatically different is it from the end of year 1 to the end of last year and now?
You know what? Honestly, it's dramatically different in terms of depth, and 2, what I'm looking for is speed. One thing that Lutz Pfannenstiel said last year coming off the season, when he really spoke plainly about how disappointing year 2 was was the fact that one thing he wanted to do in the moves is have more speed on the field. So I'll be looking to see what that speed looks like. Are we talking about a full all-out sprint, able to eat up ground like Samuel Adeniran used to be able to do for St. Louis City? Are we looking about just quick speed and transition in the attack? So we're looking for those kinds of changes into this year and how they choose then to take on opponents that, of course, all different opponents have different styles. So how do you take on a team that likes to hold on to the ball? How do you take on a team that likes to let you hold on to the ball? We know that St. Louis City isn't necessarily a fan or hasn't been a fan of past of being high in possession rates. Talking a little bit with Dale Schilly, who's also on the radio broadcast for Y98, he thinks that possession rate may actually go up a little bit for City in terms of how they attack and how they hold on to the ball.
Jen, to achieve this year's goals, how important is a Klaus bounce back to that?
Great question. Joao Klaus, DP, we expect him to act like a true 9. So those didn't grow up with position numbers. I didn't either. True 9s are your strikers, your pure strikers that look solely for goal. I think it's going to be twofold for Joao Klaus. One, he's got to stay healthy. So he's been injured for the past 2 years, coming off either hamstring problems or MCL problems, which are not easy to heal from. I talked with him a little bit in the preseason, and he talked about how he wants to make sure that he is smarter about the way he trains, that he kind of lets up when he needs to let up and knows that he's got a limit on his body and make sure he takes care of that and advocates for himself. The second part, though, is that both Klaus and St. Louis City come to an agreement and understanding on what his role is. We all know that Joao Klaus is no stranger to running all the way to the back of the field if he needs to, getting in City's box and defending. However, that's not necessarily what you want from your striker, because when they do that, you don't have an outlet. You don't have anybody to play to. And sometimes we have found Joao Klaus taking himself out of scoring positions in order to help the team defending when maybe he needs to let the team defend for him. So I'm going to be looking to see what is his role, and does Joao stick to that and let the rest of the team? And don't forget, we have Simon Betcher too. And Simon Betcher has been a scoring threat as well.
Jen, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Indy today. How bittersweet is this move from or for City and the fans?
I won't lie. Indy's one of my favorites. You guys know when you interview players, it's easy to bond with him, and Indy's a fun guy. So I think I feel a gut punch when it comes to that. He's an endearing player off the field and on the field. He has a high work rate. He gives a lot of energy to the entire team. However, that said, when you look, I've got the kind of the roster over to the side here. When you look at the depth on there, it is likely that Indy is not as high on the depth chart as he would like to be. And he's just come off of playing with the U.S. men's national team. And we know that Mauricio Pochettino values players that are getting a lot of minutes with their professional teams. And coming off last year, he didn't get as many minutes as he perhaps got under Coach Bradley Carnell. I am thinking that the writing has been a little bit on the wall for Indy when he came back, maybe not getting the minutes that he wants and seeing himself in that playing future the way he wants to be. His move to Philadelphia Union may just give him that back with Bradley Carnell. Surely a loss for St. Louis City, of course, but probably a smart move for both him and the club when it turns to getting him where he needs to be and where he wants to be, and getting City what they need in terms of perhaps some north of $1 million in general allocation money.
You can hear Jen Cease with Joey Zanaboni for every City game broadcast on Y98. Tune in 30 minutes ahead of kickoff for the game setup, information from coach, a player interview, and more. City games can be heard on traditional radio or free on the Odyssey app. And during home games, you can switch your feed to the local broadcast as well on Apple TV so that you can hear Jen and Joey. It'll be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to the season, Jen. We're looking forward to talking to you and previewing every game on Fridays. Thanks so much for the time this morning.
You got it. Go City.
Go City. Jen Cease, you'll hear her on Y98 every City game. Coming up here on The Fight as we get ready down the stretch, we need your help to make a parlay. We'll each make a bet, and you can text in. Help us out with a single bet on DraftKings for the games that you're looking at tonight. Text in 314-624-0414. We're going to build a parlay next on The Fight. It's time for some risky business. We're going to build a parlay here in The Fight. Andrew, Randy, and you. And I'm going to get things started. I'm going to go NBA. I've got Oklahoma City at Utah. I've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I want him to be the first scorer of the game. I want him to desperately score the first basket of the game at Utah tonight. He's plus 270 to do so. Boom. That just happened. Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tonight, plus 270 to score the first points of the game.
Typically, I'd say we're screwed by seeing the first point scorer bet out there, but it is rare that I see 270 for a first basket.
Yeah, right.
That seems like so obvious to happen. Normally, you're betting 500, 600, and then I'd be like, Randy, what are we doing? We can't do this to the people still. But I kind of like it, plus 270. It's a good thought. Yeah. I'm going college basketball tonight to a game that probably nobody is watching in Detroit. Cleveland State, Detroit Mercy. Cleveland State minus 8.5. They're 8-3 against the spread on the road this year. They're 500 in games favored by this line, and Detroit is 2 for their last 10. So it just kind of seems like all the magic is in Cleveland State's hands. Plus, did I say Dennis Gates' old team?
Yes,
did I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go.
How about that?
The magic.
You got to like that. All right, and we have a texter from the 618 who wants to bet the money line tomorrow on SIU Edwardsville. Don't have it up here yet, but we can put it in. We'll plug it in, 618, and we'll get that for you. We'll bet SIU on the money line for tomorrow's game.
This is one of those unique situations where you just don't have the lines yet and the ability to bet, but it will be later on into the evening. It's just so early on a Friday that those lines just aren't up yet. But we're going to two-pick the parlay just so you can see it right now of what it would be without the SIU play, and then you can factor that SIU play in from the 618 later on tonight, and it's still a $700 payout.
Not bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty two-leg parlay. We got to like that. All right, that is today's Build a Parlay. Don't forget, every day we need you to participate. Find a bet, build a parlay, or give one bet. We'll build the parlay. If you already have an idea for Monday morning, just find it, email us, text us, and we would love to have you be part of our degenerate gambling part of the show. It'd be great.
Still looking for our first win.
Coming up, we've got Tioli plus birthdays and anniversaries on The Fight. All right, time for Tioli, and if you didn't get an opportunity to see the introductions for last night's Four Nations face-off at the TD Garden in Boston, where the Blues, the St. Louis Blues, had beaten the Bruins in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final in 2019. Here's the way those introductions went.
From Scottsdale, Arizona, and the Florida Panthers, number 19, Matthew Tkachuk.
Matthew, he was born in Scottsdale, but he grew up in St. Louis. Everybody knows that he's from St. Louis. Brady, too. And so take it or leave it. They never mentioned St. Louis, the Boston PA announcer. So take it or leave it. Boston is still bitter over the St. Louis Blues winning Game 7 on enemy ice.
I'm taking that 100%. It's ridiculous the amount of booze that Jordan Binnington got himself. But then the fact they didn't say St. Louis for Brady or Matthew. What are we doing?
Yeah.
These guys grew up here. That's where they made the name for themselves.
Come on, Boston, grow up. Grow up.
It's unbelievable. My take it or leave it for you is this, and I want to start with a video as well. This fan right here, Randy, hit a shot for $100,000 at the NBA All-Star Game, courtesy of Mr. Beast. Do you know who Mr. Beast is?
No, but I know that you know.
Right?
Yeah.
So instead of doing a basketball prompt here, because we're both golf guys, I'd rather do it this way. Take it or leave it. If you were on the golf course and went one-on-one with Tiger Woods, you could make a 24-footer before he made 3 of them.
I'm going to take this. Yeah, I'm going to absolutely take it. Yeah, I can make a 24-footer before he can make 3. No doubt about it.
And golf is difficult. I'm taking it too. This also 24-footer matches the 3-point line. So there is the correspondence. And Tyler, our producer, way leaving it.
Okay, and then we've got a quick one here for Tyler. And this is the unity shown across the country this week because of the Four Nations tournament has been incredible. But the national anthem brought tears to his eyes. Here we go. All right, take it or leave it. We haven't seen this much unity in American sports since Jack Buck's poem at Busch Stadium before the first game back following 9/11. I will absolutely take that. Yeah, this has brought the country together. No doubt about it.
So moving. Everything is so moving. I'm going to take it too, and I was in tears over the "Oh Canada" for a different reason. I didn't think it was the best.
Not great. All right, there's Tioli, and let's get to some birthdays and anniversaries. Former Cardinal reliever Cody Whitley is 30 today. Happy birthday to Cody Whitley. Also, former Cardinal left-hander Tyler Lyons. He's 37. That's amazing. I would have never thought that Tyler Lyons today would be turning 37, but he is. Former Cardinal pitcher Chad Hutchinson, who was a quarterback at Stanford and a pitcher for the Cardinal. He was a quarterback for the Cowboys and Bears, is 48 today. There he is. I think that might be a Thanksgiving game that he started. Chad Hutchinson, a two-sport athlete that nobody ever talks about as the best athlete in the history of sports.
Deion Sanders, who?
Yeah, really. Former Blues defenseman Ian Cole is
first
36 today. Ian Cole, former first-round pick for the Blues, now playing for the Utah Hockey Club. And St. Louis and Brandon Williams, big fellow who had a great career with the Ravens, is 36. And here, watch. Oh, man, Brandon Williams.
Big fella.
He is a bad man. Boy, was he a good player with the Ravens. Great career with Baltimore, and spent his last year with the Chiefs. And former football Cardinal offensive lineman Ernie McMillan. You see him there, just passed away in November, born on this date in 1938. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Should be. He was something. In 1968, baseball announced a minimum annual salary of $10,000 for each player. Andrew, this year, the minimum salary of Major League Baseball will be $760,000.
I don't think that's just inflation.
No, that is the strongest union in America, the Major League Baseball Players Association. So there you have it, birthdays and anniversaries. A lot coming up on TV this weekend. Tomorrow, St. Louis U hosts Rhode Island. That game is at 1:30, and you can see it on USA Network. Mizzou is at Arkansas tomorrow night at 7 on ESPN. And you can, of course, watch that on the big ESPN. And, of course, we have the Blues and Jets right here on Matrix Midwest. Also on First Alert 4 tomorrow night at 7. But watch it here. Watch it on Matrix Midwest because we're here. And take advantage of checking out the Blues on free TV. It's pretty awesome. Then on Sunday night, the first of our series of Blues Classic games, Brett Hull scores 50 goals in less than 50 games. That's at 8 o'clock right here on Matrix Midwest.
Brett Hull, gosh, the player that I never got to know. I can't wait to go back and watch that game. As for the game on Saturday, do you think we'll see Binner and Hellebuck?
I think so, yeah, because of the storyline. I think we will see both of those goalies. Hey, they played Thursday night in one of the biggest tournaments ever. And yeah, I think that we'll probably have a great opportunity to see them. Hellebuck for Winnipeg and Binnington for the Blues. Saturday night, yeah, it'll be huge. It'll be great. I think that's what the world wants to see.
I think so too, but I'm actually leaning maybe to Hofer. I'm thinking Hofer may get the start and Binner will go Sunday against the Avs.
You know, when I type in Hofer, when I'm doing texts on my iPhone, it goes H-O-F in capital letters and then E-R. H-O-F.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So there you have it. That's our Friday edition of The Fight. Thanks for tuning in. For Andrew Rogers and our outstanding director, Tyler Klaus, I'm Randy Karraker. Don't just have a great weekend. Have an American weekend.